There we go. So today, Tuesday morning, September 21st, the first day of autumn. Harvest moon, I believe, was last night. I left my crystals out. And harvest moon is often the beginning of the transitioning of souls. Harvest moon is understood to be a vehicle of transition, a vehicle of moving souls from the liveliness, the life, the energy of summer into the beginning of gathering, collecting, bringing together the harvest for the quiet. And so it is often understood to be a time when many people choose to transition from life to death. I don't know how real that is. I don't know if more people die in October than other months, or I'm not certain about that. I do know that people typically often transition before and after holy days. And so we end this month then with the Day of the Dead, which will have, of course, even more significant meaning for me this year. Jim continues. Thank you, all of those who have asked. Jim continues, though there has been some significant change in the last probably 12 hours. His breathing is becoming more labored, and he is not really able to open his eyes, though I see his interest still to doing so. He is also still trying to speak. And yesterday, maybe for the first time, he asked me how did I get to this place? And I told him as best I could that he was dying. And I saw tears, so I suspect that he understood some part of that. But more importantly, maybe, was the reality that I wanted him to know that he has been loved and has loved. And I think all of that got communicated. I also think all of that needed. I felt that in him, that he needed to know that. And so I feel like we, as good children, good stewards of his transition, are helping him at this time. So thank you so much for that. That led me to thinking the other day about the 3 forms of suffering. Now, you have already heard a little bit about that from me, as we have talked about the second dart, the second arrow. And we'll review that again, because I believe these 2 suttas were actually portions of the same teaching. The one is the reality of pain is pain, right? The reality. Life, you stub your toe and it hurts. Your family is dying and you are in grief. These are just the realities of this human life and cannot be avoided, as we know. As is, we are reminded in the 5 remembrances, which says what? I will lose my aging. I will lose my illness. I will not be able to escape illness. I will not be able to escape the loss of that which I love and cherish. I will lose this body, this life. The only thing that I can sustain beyond form are the consequences of my actions, the goodness of my actions, the ground that I will stand on throughout all time, well beyond the body, are the love, the goodness, the contributions, the benefits that I have made in this life. And we're reminding Jim of that now all the the contributions he made in this life, and to who he made them. So those are all connected. Then we have the second form of suffering. It's consistent with the three forms of suffering in the second dart, is all of the mental fabrication, we can call it, all of the storyline, all of the addition, we call it accessorizing the truth of pain with suffering, which is why me? Self-pity. How could this have happened? Why didn't my business work? Why didn't the relationship work? How come? And we add a very intense extra level of suffering to this second dart when we create a construct, actually, because it is never true, the delusion that somehow this should not be occurring, that somehow this body should not be aging, somehow the body should not get ill, somehow this body should not die, it should not be the young, it should only be the old, it should only be those who are evil, not those who are good, right? We, in some, though I'm exaggerating for the point, don't we all? Like, how is this happening? Jim was asking me, how is this happening to me? And I saw the tear, which I believe was both the reality of grief, that I don't have much longer in this life, as well, don't we often bring, how could this be happening to me? This disease I didn't want, this loss I didn't intend or plan for. And we often solidify a couple things. One is the bubble that we believe somehow we, based on our goodness, based on our contributions, based on our specialness, would say my teacher, Joko, you think you're so special, except you're not going to escape any of this through even your spiritual practice, right? Even your spiritual practice is not going to keep you from these realities. And so be watchful is the tome. Be watchful of what you think you're doing and why, because it may not ultimately offer you the protection, the safety. We say, of course, in the suttas, the solid ground of stability, protection, and comforts that we have all of us have become somewhat familiar with, even when we imagine that in fact that isn't us, because we don't have a $300,000 a year job, or we can't live in Encinitas, or we only go, poor me, when in fact this was never the promise. This was never the promise. And by the way, can never be the cause or the conditions for our happiness. And so we're being called to look at this regularly. What is it I'm seeking? What is it I believe I have to have? How is it I believe it's supposed to go? Can I recognize this is going to be our practice today? Can I recognize what was the storyline that I brought to this moment of human existence that simply is the reality of change and the reality of pain in this human life cannot be avoided. And then there's a third level of suffering, and then we'll practice. And the third level of suffering says, even when it looks like it's going really well, and I think that applies to many of us often, even when you think you've got it going on, you've got the job you wanted, you've got the relationship you wanted, you've got the house you've wanted, you got it set up the way you thought you wanted. This is something I'm confronting a little bit. I was just starting to get the house organized after way too long of a lot of chaos. And of course, what happens? There's another change that has just come about, which means I've got to unpack all those rooms and readjust everything once again. And all the machinery of my husband's tools are back out, and right. And right. As a result of that, it would be easy, if we are not mindful, if we are not paying attention, to fall into the poor me of this. I understand that part. I'll show you where I did fall into the poor me recently, because I could not see clearly at the moment its benefit. But that third level of suffering is sometimes called the reversal of fortune. The reversal. For a moment, we have the pleasure. For a moment, we're in the symphony. For a moment, we're in the embrace. For a moment, and then we imagine that somehow it should continue. And this level of suffering is often very subtle. And we have to be particularly watchful of this. So there is the pain of real life, of everyday human life, aging, illness, death, and loss, the realities of this human body. There is the second level of suffering, of the storylines that we can bring. We call that conditioned suffering. That's the truth of suffering, bringing the storyline of why me, why not me. And the me story is most important there, to the difficulties, the challenges. And then the third is the reversal of fortune. Even when everything appears to be going well, the realities of change, the realities of loss are right here, not in some future moment. They are always right here with us. And we tend to turn our faces, don't we, away for some time, and then feel shocked or distressed or dismayed at the reality when it hits us, when it happens. So those are the three forms of suffering. We're going to investigate them a little bit here today. Wanted to do that first. I thought it would impact your understanding enough that you could then be watchful this week for, where do I get caught? Where's the hook for me? And I got caught this week doing a lot. I don't want to say it was too much, because I've come to see it differently now that I'm rested. But I was, in addition to Jim's being in hospice and dying, and my husband's distress, and my wanting to be there as completely as I could be for him, and my own pain and grief, all of that being real, I was moving 7 other people around both our homes and town, because my brother, who I love dearly, had scheduled this sometime before, and my husband asked, do not cancel this. Let him come and enjoy his time. And so we set up several things for them to enjoy while they were in San Diego. And it required, of course, consequently, a lot of energy. A lot. And we had a 230th birthday parties, and it was a lot. And it gets to be a lot. The a lot is the a lot that it is, no problem. And I got very worn out from all of the moving, and the got to get them here and pick them up, and then the dinner, and then the party. And I was feeling really worn out by it. It is not what I would have chosen, actually, is completely the truth of this. I would have canceled this. But I had forgotten for a moment why I had agreed to do it. And the reason I had agreed to do it was I knew that my husband, the idea of not being able to have my brother here, not being was all, again, painful to him in a way that he just wanted them to be here having a good time, even when he couldn't, participate, even when he couldn't. This is a little bit in the third level of suffering, right? Even when we can create the party, even when it all goes off, even when we have a good, his Father is still in the full way, even in the best of times, in the midst of these realities, right? And it doesn't mean we didn't have a great time. Of course we did, but you couldn't escape. You couldn't escape, and neither should we try. Can we then, becomes the work, hold it all? Can we then hold it all? And when I remembered that I really didn't do this because it was for me, I did it for him, the weariness of that fell away. And he said, yes, this was important to me. And for him, okay, we can do it that way. I fell more into the second realm of suffering, which was some probable self-pity, kind of, poor me. Why did I have to do all this? By the way, it was nothing extraordinary. So it just wasn't where my natural energies were. Sometimes we are called to generate energies we don't have. And that's okay too. So there's the example. Let's see what you come up with during this practice. Let's read this blessing, this prayer by Rabbi Heschel. Faith does not spring out of nothing. It comes with the discovery of the holy dimension of our existence. Suddenly, we become aware that our lips touch the veil that hangs before the Holy of Holies. Our lips touch the veil that hangs before the Holy of Holies. Our faith is lit up for a time with the light from behind the veil. Faith opens our hearts for the entrance of the holy. This is how close we are to the holy. When we open ourselves up to the possibility that God and good can be there in any moment, miracle is all around us. Rabbi Abraham Heschel. Faith does not spring out of nothing. It comes with remembering the truth. So I'm going to try to get out of here so that I can see you all. I have a little trouble with that. There we go. And let's prepare to sit. So let's begin by feeling that holy ground beneath our feet. You don't even have to look down for that. Can you feel the way the earth holds you? Holy. Can we also feel the sense of this body? And just take a moment to take a breath as we set ourselves and rest in that body. This perfect human body, however it is right now.
You were right. You were right. I had the wrong shoes. You were right. Thank you. That's what it was, you smart boy. All right, now let's go.
The beauty of sound, the sound of a voice, the ability to hear it. The sound of prayer. The sound of silence. Can we take in the holy with the eyes? The beauty that surrounds you. Maybe simply the beauty of open space. The beauty of a face. The holy that comes with a smile. Can you breathe in the truth? As Victor said, the intensity and power of the truth of being alive right here. And its sweetness. And to know the truth of this holiness, which is the discovery of this, requires what? Two things: the pause, the stillness, and the presence. And when we ignite these two, there is the heart mind awakened. May we call to mind all those and those special ones for whom we are going to offer this practice today. May we grow in our care, in our love, in our compassion, in our equanimity, in our wisdom. May we grow in those enough so that we can hold the whole of the world in this one breath. Those who are aging, those who are ill, those who are dying, those who have known loss and gain. May we expand this circle. May we cradle all beings. And offer them the benefits of this practice. And so we are then all blessed. And with the strike of that bell, however much of it you could hear, follow the essence of sound. I can hear the train whistle blowing now from the coaster. Let the sounds move you out beyond the body. Where we can then breathe in and out that open, vast space. Sounds you like or sounds you don't, no problem. It is in the blessing of hearing, in the holiness of hearing, this matters. Remembering to use that out breath as the guardrail, it will give you an anchor point for some number of breaths until the mind becomes slightly more stable. And so just know this is a part of the process. And you don't have to either rush it or feel like you have to get some other way at all. You just come back to the out breath. Follow it down into the body, making contact with that still point, and then open. We call that resting in the gap, resting in the pause. You might even say resting in the infinite. Kiss the veil between this self-centered life and that vast, open, infinite, spacious reality that we really are. We, the very you, the very me, and all those others animate that holiness. Dissolving the veil. By this very breath, we make the exchange. By this very presence, we intention and aspire to do it again and again. You might not like the wandering mind, the restless body, but the not liking will not serve you well. We can simply be with, be present to, bear witness. Whatever is here, can we breathe that? Thoughts about graham crackers, thoughts about the word holy. What does it really mean? See if you can recognize and just let it be. There's no thoughts about holy, there is only the be. And to do that, we have to be wholly, most completely present. And so we can include that thought, the thoughts about graham crackers, the thoughts about the day. We just don't get hooked there. We don't mistake that thought for being who we really are. We don't mistake that body sensation or that restless or sluggish body. Can we be present to it all and not mistake it for the whole reality? We can open larger that luminous presence that we were touching on Saturday. We can be cradled by our own presence and the presence of all that has come before and to come. And then rather than suffer or struggle or resist, simply open that heart mind wide, creating that vast luminous field of awareness. And we can shine the light and the love on everything. And so for a moment, let's drop in on the first form of suffering, which is the resistance to the pain of this human life, the unavoidable pains and losses of this human life. Can you think of something? Of course you can. That is either in its just the natural distress or anxiety. And can we simply recognize it, call it by name? Oh, there's that distress that I've got an empty day now, and what do I do? That's a benefit. By the way, there's nothing to do to be a benefit first. So just notice where the mind naturally wanders. It usually wanders to an area of concern, or remember, it can also wander to an area of distraction. But we also know the suffering that comes from that. It removes us from the present. It takes us out of that holy embrace into a story, a dream, a nightmare. Just get back here. You might be worried about your health. You might be worried about your weight. You might be worried about what time something delivers or doesn't. You might be worried about your next appointment. You might be worried about time. You might be worried about people. Part of the human condition. Can we simply let it be? Honoring it as the pain of pain. And since the realities of aging, illness, and death are certain, where is the resistance? Where is this second dart, that second arrow? I don't want this. I want it like it was. I want it to be different. I want it to be the same. See where we get hooked. In the recognition itself, remember, we are already becoming less pained. Just recognizing, oh, here I am, as in my example, feeling a little bit worn out. I was, of course, and feeling like somehow that shouldn't have been happening. Of course, I was worn out. I was fine. That's what worn out feels like. And then feel into the body. See if you can wake back down. Remember, we've talked about that many times. It's not just to hold the thought as a thought, it's to really drop it into the direct experience of this mind body, seeing how it contracts, how it grips, how it limits, how it's uncomfortable. Or how it is freeing. I'm not feeling distress about my being worn out. I'm feeling some relief. Like now that I know what about that is causing me distress. I didn't do it for me. And that's okay too. Feel where it is alive still, where that hook is. Where does the storyline play out in the body? See if you can turn towards that slight distress, unpleasantness, restlessness, whatever grip, whatever's there. And we're not trying to get rid of it. We're just trying to recognize, acknowledge, and be with. Hold it gently, kindly. Hold it with compassion and love. If we can do that, in the moments we can do that, we have eliminated, at least in part, that second error. It should or shouldn't all falls away. Just being with this. And then we can look a little deeper once we've held the experience itself, and we can invite that inquiry. And the inquiry is, what am I doing to resist, to struggle against? Is there a wanting or not wanting here? What was I hoping for? And I recognized in my instance, dragging my family all over hell, that what I was wanting was them to be having a good time. Because that's what my husband wanted. But the wanting was still there, and it had a consequence. And as I inquire further, I can feel a kind of sour belly. I was wanting a good time for them so that I could feel good about it. I wanted my husband's happiness. I wanted the happiness of my family so that I could. And of course, it was just a big setup, as likely as yours. Can we look a little closer? What is it that you were really wanting or not wanting? It's causing this second level of suffering, the suffering of conditioned existence. Everything's going to come and go. Nothing can be kept. Nothing can be held. Nothing is stable. It is only changing, shifting ground. Where's the resistance to that? Stay present to the body. We don't analyze, we're just creating a space for the truth to arise. Be watchful that you don't seek an answer. That can become another form of suffering. Where is the reality of change? Causing you distress? Since it is certain and guaranteed. How does that feel in the body? Is there a tightness, a grip, a vibration, an energy, an invitation to fight or flight? Sometimes we can use the body itself by just resting in the body, looking for where those energies are. We can often wake up and move from the body awareness itself up into a clarity of thought. Oh, I'm feeling the sourness in the belly because I was wanting. I wanted to be gratified by others having a good time. And in the very recognition of that, we can put it down. We can hold it. with insight, understanding, and wisdom, we can feel compassion for ourselves, recognizing that however unintentioned and unconsciously we have contributed to our distress. And then we can investigate that third level of suffering, that reversal of fortune. Here we were having the whole family here. We had invested some time, energy, money, and resource to their having a good time. And of course, what do we notice? The family is in their own versions of wanting and in their distress or conflict, fear or confusion. No matter the distraction, no matter the pleasure, no matter the goodness, the realities abound. And can we recognize that? This is a much subtler level of suffering because there's a deep and subtle wanting in it all, wanting it to be good, pleasant, fun, pleasurable, enjoyable to begin with, and then wish that it stay, when of course it is guaranteed not to stay. And how do we breathe with, hold the truth of this? We invest ourselves in care, love, compassion for others and ourselves with the wish that it relieves suffering, that it lead to goodness, contribution, or the end of suffering. And it is not you alone. There is no party, there are no flowers that are sufficient for this. Not for this love. Doesn't mean it's not pleasant, but we cannot keep it. And when we recognize that, when we cannot keep the car shiny, when we cannot keep the couch new, when we cannot keep the right chocolate cake, whatever it is we attach to in the pleasant, in the realm of the pleasant. What are we confronting? When you can't keep the closet clean, then what? And for all of us, it is the same. It is some essential resistance and fear. Resistance of the truth that no matter how good, it too will change. This is one of our essential resistances to this concept that good people somehow should not befall difficult realities. Right? We all ask, how did that happen? They were such a good person. How did they get ill? How were they the ones that were killed? How did they die in the car accident? How did this happen? This is a part of the delusion of the third form of suffering. The good die too. And see where your resistance rises up to that. One of my husband's wishes was that everyone he loves die in their sleep. And held it enough that it became a kind of an expectation. Even though it doesn't make any sense, and of course we all know. But why? Why can't we just don't- why is it taking so long? Well, is it long? Or is it just the way? When we see the wanting and the not wanting, and the essential truth that it cannot be kept, and then we let go of all that suffering, all of the wanting or not wanting, all the recognition. We put it all down. We simply rest in the present moment, in the body that is available here, with the heart mind that can be present to it. This is not a surrender, it is an opening. And we shine that radiant and luminous light that comes from beyond and touches our own heart minds and then radiates out. We simply rest in that. We find the ease in the breath, the natural breath. We don't even look for anything. We bring that radiant light, that luminous awareness, right from the present moment into the next. And then as we continue to be mindful, to be present and open. Bring all of you, lift the veil that separates the holiness of you from this holy life. This holy life includes aging, illness, death, and loss. and that which holds them. May we all be safe. And that safety really isn't limited to the physical at all, is it? It may be safe in mind, by being mindful, by being clear seeing, being cognizant of realities of this human life. May we be free from suffering and its causes. We just reviewed them. May we be free from the clinging, the grasping, the greed, the resistance, and the ignorance that lead to that secondary. May we rejoice, be joy-filled at the infinite blessings being poured down upon you right now. And may we hold it all the births and deaths, the coming and the going, the pleasure and the fact that it cannot be kept meaningful in equanimity. All the change and all the gains and losses. And the holy. And may we be filled with loving kindness. And may we be proud. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we be happy. Truly, unconditionally happy. And may this practice today contribute that it be so. So be it. If I can open this. I think Robin said that somehow she couldn't come off of no video. I don't know too much about that, Robin. Sorry about that.
No worries. Not a big deal.
Yeah, thank you. I have
You
no idea.
can't see me.
Yep, couldn't say. I don't know too much, and I know even less about that. So,
Ditto.
so just feeling into the body. So, often we hold and resist even in the practice. And so sometimes you can find that place like, wow, there was this little gripping happening there in the left shoulder or the right side of the neck. And remember, it is always with curiosity and friendliness, not with any criticisms or this idea of getting it wrong. Just as is true in these three forms of suffering. It is not to say, see how you're messing it up. It's actually there to say, can you see the causes of suffering, which is the first noble truth, so that we can begin to understand the causes of the suffering, the second noble truth, and then the way to its end. And then the way to its end. And that's the whole point, really. And then it, of course, in the Four Noble Truths, it sets about a whole path called the Noble Eightfold Path, which we will be reviewing sometime in the coming weeks. We were going to be starting that sometime next week. I'm just not ready to jump into that. I think we need to just be here for a while. But know that A Whole Life Path is the book that we will be using. I'll show it to you here. By Gregory Kramer. A Whole Life Path by Gregory Kramer is the book that we will be using. He just wrote this and it was released this year. And it really is about how to make the Noble Eightfold Path real, how to live it now. How do we practice right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right intention, right effort. And we'll be looking at that. So the other announcement that I promised Greg I would work to communicate better is that we have a St. Andrew's food collection coming up the second Tuesday, I believe, in October 12th. The food will have to be at Carrie's by then. I just want to remind people to start looking for things, whether it's in your pantry or the Dollar Tree. October is before winter. And so I want to make sure we help people who need help in the month of October. We'll do so again in December. I don't know that we'll do St. Andrew's in December because we will also be contributing to the CRC's holiday basket drive. So we'll talk about that after October. But for now, we're focusing on October 12th, getting those food items, pastas, rices, beans, tomato in cans and vegetables, and even tuna and chicken. I believe they also accept diapers and stuff like that. So be looking around and starting your collection. It's an important contribution that we make. And thank you so much for that. Then just to back up into the practice to make sure that you understood the practice, were there any questions about it, any observations or insights around that practice for you?
I enjoyed that you honored the rabbi during this kind of holy month of Jewish holidays. Thank you.
You're welcome. There are many truths spoken through many tongues, and I cherish them all, and I want all of us to as well. We cannot imagine, can we, how destructive that somehow one group, one person, one holds this vast, amazing truth. It's spoken in all languages and throughout all times and all traditions. And so we will always honor them all. So if you ever have something that relates to the practices we're doing, even if I don't find something and you know of something, please send it along, because that will be meaningful to me and others, and I will likely incorporate it. As you see that I have used the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition and the Sufi tradition and the Islamic tradition through Hafiz and others on many occasions. So please feel free always to do that. Could you see your suffering? You could probably feel it if you couldn't see it. And that counts. If you can't see it, but you can feel that in the belly, my sour belly this morning is a remnant of that. It's not very, it's pretty subtle, not really very distressing, to tell you the truth. It's a remnant, not being in the grip, but it's there. And I am aware of it. And I really love that, because now I can be caring, kind, and attentive to that reality of the truth of that distress still active in my body and mind in some way, still looking at it, still investigating and inquiring. So did you feel that? Could you see it? Could you see where the resistance, where the second arrow of not wanting or wanting something else, or wanting it to be different than it is, wanting to keep the thing or get rid of the thing or have it be different than it actually is? Yes, you could, because we all do it. So if you couldn't find it, ask me, I'll help you point to it. Because yes, it is a part of the contributions to our distress. I didn't plan to be here like this right now. This is, these are some of my favorite months, by the way, September and October, both of them months of my children's birth, and my favorite, having grown up in the Midwest. And right, how is this all happening when I just want to be enjoying the cooling weather? And I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. Right? And then no matter how pleasant, no matter how blessed, no matter how fortunate, no matter the goodness of our life experience, we are going to experience what? The loss of them and its change. No matter how beautiful your marriage, no matter how amazing your home, no matter how fabulous the job, no matter how much you love that dog, right? And we come with some fantasies, some delusions about that. And we cannot imagine or understand that it also ends. And that's the third. So Robin's asked that I review the three. The first form of suffering is the pain of this human life, just the reality of being alive, just being in a human body that is going to age, ill, and die. And that cannot be escaped or avoided. And of course, we just get to be in pain. My husband is just in grief. This is just a part of being alive and human and having a father. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to undo. There's no resistance to it. It just is what it is. It's the truth. So, right, this human life and its realities, that's number one. The second one is the second dart, or the truth. We call it the resistance to change, we call it the suffering of conditioned existence. No matter what, nothing can be held. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is solid, not us, not it, not them. And the suffering that comes from that is the storyline that we often bring, the mental proliferations, they call it, that we somehow, if we could have only gotten it right, avoided this distress. And we have a storyline about that. Because I tried so hard, because I was such a good partner, because I worked harder than anybody. Those are the reasons I should not befall the truth of this loss, ending, or change. That's the second one. We could call it and also there's a resistance, of course, in that second one, right? That comes with the story. Should not be happening to me. It should be like this. And the third is the reversal of fortune. No matter how good, no matter how great, no matter how wonderful, it will also change by its conditioned nature. This is all called forms of dukkha. Dukkha, D-U-K-K-H-A, dukkha. I love the word dukkha because it reminds me of the word kaka, which my grandmother used to say for things that are shitty. Cracked me up, cracked me up. She'd say, uh-oh, kaka coming. And, you know, she was naming it like, this is not going to necessarily go the way we want. And dukkha actually means, in some really deep understanding, stuck, hooked, caught, solidified, clinging. It's a contraction to the point of, you know, distress, disease, and delusion. And we all do it. It is not
What
bad
is all this?
that we do it. I have somebody.
No.
Oh, we got 5 next door.
Sorry about that. We sometimes are off mute. So hopefully that can be helpful. I'd like you to look for this. Really, it's very helpful. Can you do it without condemning, I would say? Can you do it with compassion for yourself? Can you see the way that we all contribute unnecessarily, not very friendly way to the believed thought that somehow this life should be different than it is? And the only one who can make it different at all is you. And that begins with accepting and recognizing how it is. Not with changing, making different at all, but can I see that this is something that I don't like and don't want, and I have a whole narrative storyline about how it should be some other way. I'd say those would be big steps in the direction of freedom and happiness. So I hope you're willing to take that on. Use the body as evidence for that. In mine, it was feeling worn out over the weekend. In another's, it might be a distractible energy. In another's, it might be a certain other kind of pain or grip, or as I said earlier, for me, sour belly as examples, right? Tightness, tension, solidifying the self. How are we doing it is the constant question. How am I contributing? Otherwise, tears are tears, grief is grief, pain is pain, and sorrow is sorrow. No problem at all. No problem at all. Just this human life. And we can show up for it without thinking we have to make anything better at all. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with me today. We are going to take at least one more week before we go towards the selected book. Thank you for your patience. We're also going to be delaying the start of the mindfulness course, which I was going to be starting this Friday. I'm now delaying it all the way till October 22nd. I'm putting it off for a while. So we'll see what happens with that. May you all have a beautiful day. Show up for it, please. Show up for it. That will be a lot. Thank you so much. Blessings to you all. Take care, everyone. Adrian, have a good day at work. I hope I'm certain it will go well. I know what Adrian will bring to that, and I hope and trust that you will all bring the same to your day. Enjoy this day, everyone. Be well.